Chapter 1, Miss Ashton, congratulations on passing our company's online interview. The offer letter has been sent to your email. We require you to report for duty in London within 2 weeks. Do you have any questions? On the other end of the line, a man from across the ocean spoke fluent English. Zoe Ashton didn't hesitate for a moment and readily agreed. No problem, I'll be there on time. Just as she hung up, the doorknob turned. Liam Spencer walked in and, seeing Zoe, smoothly handed her a paper bag. Something urgent came up at the firm yesterday, so I couldn't spend New Year's Eve with you. Don't be angry. He sounded sincere, and Zoe didn't press further. She took the bag and glanced inside. A rose quartz bracelet lay forlornly at the bottom. So thoughtless, he hadn't even bothered to put it in a proper box. The bracelet was expensive, but not because of the bracelet itself. Its value lay in the matching rose quartz necklace. The bracelet was merely a complimentary item. If the bracelet was here, it meant Liam had bought the necklace. Yet, he had chosen to give the free gift to her. If it weren't for those photos Cassidy Thorne had sent her yesterday, showing an eye-catchingly large and high-quality rose quartz necklace, Zoe might not have realized that her boyfriend of 5 years would give the main gift to someone else and the freebie to his girlfriend. Just like he had used the excuse of urgent firm business to avoid spending New Year's Eve with her, when in reality, he had just gone to be with Cassidy. But in the end, she didn't expose Liam. After a thank you, she accepted the gift. Seeing Zoe put the gift aside without any further reaction, Liam frowned. Just as she was about to head back to her room, he stopped her. "Where's mine?" Startled, Zoe looked at Liam, who was blocking her way, not understanding what he was doing. "What's yours? You forgot. Weren't you the one who suggested we exchange gifts every New Year's Eve to show we care about each other?" Liam's face darkened, annoyed that he had remembered their pact while she had apparently forgotten. Zoe then remembered, saying dismissively, "We've been together for so many years, like an old married couple. There's no need for these formalities anymore." Liam instinctively wanted to retort, but then the words sounded eerily familiar. A moment later, he recalled. Last New Year's Eve, Zoe had enthusiastically prepared a gift for him, but he hadn't remembered their agreement, so when she came to exchange gifts, he was empty-handed. Her eyes filled with disappointment, she had asked him why he'd forgotten something they'd agreed upon. How had he replied then? He had said, "We've been together for so many years, like an old married couple. These are just formalities. If you forget, you forget." The excuse he had used then was now being thrown back at him. Liam finally understood how Zoe must have felt when she heard those words. For a moment, he was speechless. Finally, he awkwardly tried to change the subject. He looked around, found no good opening, and eventually brought the topic back to himself. "I'm hungry." His gaze followed Zoe intently. She replied with a single word, "Oh." "Just oh." Liam was astonished, not expecting her reaction to be so flat, so utterly indifferent. She feigned confusion. "What else? Do you need me to transfer you some money for food?" "That's not what I mean. His voice trailed off mid-sentence. Zoe looked at him, a hint of amusement in her eyes. Of course, she knew what he wanted to say. Liam used to be a picky eater, and his lawyer job always kept him busy, leading to irregular meals. So, whenever he said he was hungry, even if it was 3 in the morning, Zoe would get up and cook for him. But now, she no longer cared if he got a stomach ache. "Since you have money, just go downstairs and eat. I have a get-together to go to later." With that, she turned to go back to her room to change. But she hadn't taken 2 steps before Liam grabbed her hand. Zoe looked back, meeting his sullen face again. "You're going out this late? What for?" Zoe didn't know what he was suddenly angry about. She tried to pull her hand free but couldn't. Instead, he unconsciously tightened his grip. Feeling the pain in her wrist, she frowned and hissed softly. "Let go, it's just a regular get-together." Still no further explanation, which Liam found hard to accept. "But you've never been like this before." It was true. She would never abandon him for other things. If it were the old Zoe, upon hearing Liam say he was hungry, she would have immediately gone to the kitchen with no thought of going out. But now, she couldn't be bothered. After all, she had already decided to leave him. Chapter 2 that night, Zoe Ashton was truly acting out of character. Only one last guess remained in his mind. "Are you still angry?" "Really, I'm not." Zoe remained calm, her voice even tinged with a bit of helplessness. Her expression didn't seem fake, but Liam Spencer still felt uneasy. Glancing at his watch, he finally conceded. "It's too late now. It's not safe for you to go out alone. I'll go with you." As he said this, he started towards the entryway, but Zoe's impatient voice came from behind him. "No need. I'm meeting friends. It wouldn't be convenient if you came." His movements froze as her words fell. Surprise flickered in his eyes. He hadn't expected her to refuse. After all, in the first few years they were together, Zoe had mentioned wanting to introduce him to her friends many times, but he had always refused, citing his busy work schedule. Now that he had offered, she was refusing. He was about to speak when Zoe walked past him and straight out the door. The get-together was at a bar. As Zoe walked in, the few people already in the private room exclaimed in surprise. "Well, look who it is. What wind blew Miss Ashton our way today? I thought you were going to bail on us again with some excuse. Exactly every time we invite you, you say you're busy. We thought you were really going to choose a man over your friends." Listening to their teasing, Zoe felt a little embarrassed and laughed self-deprecatingly. "I was so foolish back then, alienating my friends and losing myself for a man who didn't love me." She sat down among them, casually picked up a drink from the table, and took a sip. The aroma of the alcohol swirled in her mouth, a hint of nostalgia in her eyes. Actually, she used to enjoy drinking quite a bit, but she had given it up because Liam didn't like it. Liam had always thought they met on a blind date. That wasn't true. Zoe first saw him at her parents' funeral. That year, she was only 10. Yet, she had arranged her parents' funeral herself. All the relatives told her not to be sad, to first attend to the guests properly. But when she personally pushed the two bodies to the cremation, she couldn't hold back any longer. She ran out and hid in a corner, crying. It was then that Liam found her. He was the son of her mother's best friend. Seeing her crying so heartbrokenly, he said nothing, just sat beside her and handed her a piece of candy. "Want some candy?" Sobbing, she reached out and took the candy he offered. Peeling off the wrapper, the sweetness of the milk candy melted in her mouth, but tears still streamed down her face. "I don't have a mommy and daddy anymore. I miss them so much." He was only about 10 himself, yet he had the air of a mature young man. He reached out and stroked her hair. "Don't be afraid, they're still here. It's just that when you're at school, they're at work. When you're eating at home, they've gone on a business trip. When you go to find them, they happen to have just returned home. They're always here, you'll keep missing each other. But one day, you'll meet again." Hearing this, she finally looked up, staring at him blankly. In the days that followed, Zoe got through the long nights without her parents by clinging to those words. She convinced herself they were still there, they were just always missing each other. She told herself that after many years, they would meet again. For a long time after, Zoe never forgot his words, nor did she forget him. Even though all she knew about him was his name, Liam Spencer. Until many years later, when she had grown up, and Helen Spencer arranged a blind date for her with Liam. Chapter 3, from the beginning, Helen Spencer had told her that her son was wonderful in every way, except that he was naturally cold. If they got together, it might take a long time to warm him up. But Zoe didn't care. Because she had seen his warm side, she was willing to try everything to warm him up. For 5 years, Zoe made him the center of her world. His suits couldn't be machine washed, so the first thing she did after work every day was take his clothes to the dry cleaner. He casually mentioned wanting hot meals ready when he got home, so she quit her beloved job in jewelry design and found a low-paying but less demanding secretarial job near his company, moving into his house. He didn't like the smell of alcohol, so she gave up drinking entirely, becoming estranged from her old friends as a result. After her parents passed away, she felt she had no home, like a piece of driftwood floating wherever the current took her. But after getting together with Liam, she subconsciously felt she had found an anchor, felt that wherever Liam was, her home was. So she did everything in her power to take care of him. Fortunately, her efforts weren't entirely in vain. He gradually became less cold towards her and wouldn't refuse her requests, like their New Year's Eve gift exchange agreement. But just when she thought things were slowly getting better, the shadow of another girl appeared in their lives. Her name was Cassidy Thorne, his university classmate. He was a neat freak and never allowed her to eat in the car. Zoe knew he disliked it and never dared to break the rule. But later, she saw Cassidy eating cookies in his car, and he never said a word to stop her. When she successfully made dessert for the first time and wanted to share her joy with him, he frowned and pushed it away, saying he didn't like sweets. But later, when they had dinner with Cassidy, and Cassidy pushed all the desserts she didn't like to him, he accepted them gladly. Zoe's friends all enjoyed drinking, and their favorite pastime was going to a bar for a drink. When he found out, he frowned and told her not to associate with those friends anymore, saying he didn't like noisy places. But when Cassidy mentioned she was going to a bar, his first reaction wasn't to refuse, but to accompany Cassidy. There were countless incidents like this. Every time Zoe asked, he would only say they were just friends now and told her not to make a big deal out of it. But thinking back now, it all boiled down to one thing. He just didn't love her enough. After voicing all these things, Zoe felt as if a heavy stone had been lifted from her heart, allowing her to finally breathe a sigh of relief. Her other friends, however, fell silent. After a long while, someone finally broke the silence. "If he doesn't love you, why do you keep staying by his side?" Zoe looked at Nancy Jennings, who had spoken, and shook her head with a smile. "I'm not staying anymore. I've decided to break up with him. I'm going abroad in 2 weeks." When Zoe got home, Liam Spencer was still awake. As soon as she entered, he smelled the strong scent of alcohol on her and frowned involuntarily. "Didn't I tell you I don't like the smell of alcohol? If you're jealous, just say so. Why drink yourself into this state?" She changed her shoes and walked straight to the bathroom, pausing only when she passed him. "I drank because I was happy, not because of you." Liam rubbed his temples, feeling it was impossible to communicate with her right now. He didn't say anything more but stepped forward, intending to help Zoe to her room to rest. Unexpectedly, the next second, Zoe dodged his outstretched hand. "Are you sleeping in the master bedroom or the guest room?" Sensing the rejection in her tone, his face darkened, somewhat incredulous. "You want to sleep in separate rooms?" Zoe waved her hand. "Didn't you say you don't like the smell of alcohol? Then it's better if we sleep in separate rooms." After saying that, she paid him no more mind and turned back to the master bedroom. After she had washed up, she heard a door slam from the guest room. Liam was angry. If it had been before, she would have been flustered, not knowing what to do, and would have immediately tried to coax him. But now, she no longer cared. She fell into bed and went straight to sleep. The next day, Zoe left early in the morning to submit her resignation at work. It was a simple process, and the handover was quick. It was just noon when she got home. As she entered, she saw Liam walking out with a cake box. Zoe's gaze fell on the cake in his hand, and she suddenly remembered. Today was Cassidy Thorne's birthday. Seeing her return, his pace didn't falter, nor did he spare her a glance as he walked straight out the door. She didn't try to stop him either, because she knew this was the prelude to his Cold War. In the 3 years since Cassidy returned to the country, they had argued countless times because of her. Every time they fought, he would give her the silent treatment for a period, and every time he started a Cold War, she would immediately admit fault and coax him until he was no longer angry. But this time, she quickly averted her gaze, no longer caring about his mood. Chapter 4. After Liam Spencer left, Zoe Ashton didn't linger either, heading straight to her room and opening her laptop. She was going to London in 2 weeks. She needed to rent an apartment first and also searched for some local recipes to practice at home. Living alone abroad in the future, she had to get used to it in advance. Lying back on her bed, Zoe idly scrolled through her phone and saw a social media post Cassidy Thorne had made half an hour ago. "Thankful for every important moment in my life, you were there." Below it was a group photo. In the picture, Liam sat next to Cassidy, looking at her with a tenderness Zoe had never seen before. Liam and his buddies had all liked the post, and even the first comment was from Liam. "I made you a promise and I'll never break it." His buddies also chimed in with comments, "We're so happy to see you two happy." The comment section was a sea of harmony, shattered only by the last comment. "Stop posting, Zoe will see it and make a fuss again." Zoe had indeed made a fuss initially. At that time, she didn't know Cassidy was Liam's first love, only thinking they were very good friends. So, when she noticed Liam's unusual attention and care towards Cassidy, she had gently reminded him that, after all, they were of the opposite sex, and even as friends, they should be mindful of appearances. It was just a normal reminder, yet he had immediately scowled. "We're all friends, just normal interactions. What's there to be mindful of?" Even his buddies had said, "Don't be so petty, trying to take away your boyfriend's basic right to have friends. That's too fussy. Zoe didn't understand why, just because she mentioned Liam and Cassidy should be mindful of appearances. They all turned on her, saying she was overreacting. It wasn't until later that she accidentally found out Cassidy wasn't just his friend, but his unforgettable first love, whom he had been separated from due to his mother's disapproval, forcing Cassidy to go abroad. Only then did Liam agree to the blind date and start dating Zoe. She finally understood everything. No wonder Liam treated Cassidy so differently. No wonder his buddies never liked her and reacted so strongly when she wanted Liam to keep his distance from Cassidy. It turned out the person Liam truly loved from beginning to end was only Cassidy Thorne. Because in the eyes of his buddies, she was just a thief who had stolen Cassidy's place. So they felt Cassidy was his rightful match, and only with Cassidy would Liam be happy. Her thoughts pulled back from her memories. Zoe didn't confront Liam as they expected. Instead, she simply turned off her phone and fell into a deep sleep. She woke up in the middle of the night, shaken awake forcefully. Opening her eyes, she saw Liam, his face grim. She grabbed her phone from the bedside table, glanced at the time, and a wave of irritation washed over her. Zoe took a long, deep breath to suppress her impatience, then looked up at him. "What is it?" But when Liam spoke, his voice was icy, fully displaying his displeasure. "Zoe Ashton, do you even remember I'm your boyfriend? I came back so late and you didn't even call. My buddies' girlfriends all know to call them, ask what's up, urge them to come home. And you, not even a single text message. What exactly do you mean by this?" Chapter 5, Zoe Ashton looked at Liam Spencer, confused, not understanding what he was angry about. "You were with Cassidy Thorne and the others. What was I supposed to ask? Didn't you used to complain that I was always annoyingly calling when you were out with friends? So I didn't call you. Besides, didn't you say you and Cassidy are just friends, nothing more?" Her explanation was logical and well-founded, leaving Liam somewhat speechless. He wanted to say, no, that's not it. She wouldn't have just gone to sleep when he was out so late, without a single word of concern for him. But her reasoning made it impossible for him to say that. He didn't understand why she was reacting this way. But then, he remembered the social media post Cassidy had made a short while ago, and he finally understood. "You're angry because of Jayatong's post." His voice was certain, but she shook her head. "I'm not angry." Liam breathed a sigh of relief, not taking Zoe's words to heart, thinking she was just being stubborn. The explanation came rushing out. "Jayatong and I have known each other for so many years, it's normal for me to go help her celebrate her birthday. As for the comments under that post, they were just joking around. You don't have to take it seriously." Drowsiness gradually crept back in. She hadn't even listened carefully to his explanation before giving a perfunctory reply. "I know. You should go get some rest. Everything I said is true. You don't need to be angry about this." Liam heard the perfunctory tone in her voice, his patience wearing thin as he tried to explain. Zoe sighed, feeling helpless. She was very tired and really didn't want to continue this standoff with him. "Then, what will it take for you to believe I'm not angry?" She picked up her phone, found Cassidy's post, and liked it right in front of Liam. "Do you believe me now?" Liam fell silent, staring at Zoe, as if trying to ascertain from her face whether she was truly not angry. After a long moment, he conceded. He sat down beside her, reaching out to put an arm around her waist, but Zoe quietly shifted away. A flicker of shock crossed Liam's eyes. He hadn't expected Zoe to reject his closeness, but what followed immediately was the displeasure of being rejected. "Didn't you say you weren't angry?" She closed her eyes, unwilling to look at him anymore, but gave him a reason he had to accept. "It's my period today." His lips pressed tightly together. In the end, he got up without another word and walked out the door. The next morning, when Liam came out, Zoe was already eating breakfast. Seeing there was no portion for him on the table, he asked, "Where's mine?" Without turning her head, she slowly finished her breakfast before explaining, "You hardly ate the breakfasts I prepared for you before. I guess you don't really like my cooking, so I won't make it anymore. If there's anything you want to eat, just go downstairs and buy it yourself." Liam froze, completely unexpected this reason. He always felt Zoe had been very strange lately, but didn't know why. In the end, he could only assume she was still angry because of Cassidy Thorne. When he spoke again, his tone was uncharacteristically softer. "Didn't you always want to go to the amusement park? I'll go with you today. Don't be angry anymore." Having explained countless times that she wasn't angry, Zoe didn't want to continue. Anyway, even if she said it, he would only stick to his own opinion. As for the amusement park, the old Zoe had really wanted to go. She had lost her parents at a young age, and no one had ever taken her to an amusement park. Later, when she was dating Liam, she had mentioned it many times and invited him to go with her. But every time, he would say it was too childish, that those things were for coaxing children, that he was too busy with work and wasn't interested in amusement parks, and would refuse. Recalling the past, this time it was her turn to shake her head. "Forget it, it's just for kids, let's not go." Chapter 6, the reason for refusal was still very familiar to Liam Spencer, but this time he didn't give up. It wasn't until Zoe Ashton finally got annoyed with his pestering that she relented. Since it wasn't the weekend, there weren't many cars on the road. The two of them drove smoothly and quickly reached the amusement park. They bought tickets and had just walked in when a group of very familiar people approached them. It was Cassidy Thorne and Liam's group of friends. The guy at the front, Samuel Taylor, excitedly walked up to Liam as soon as he saw him, greeting him and slinging an arm around him, pulling him forward. "Since we ran into each other, let's hang out together, the more, the merrier." Zoe lagged far behind, out of place with the group ahead. She had no reaction to Samuel's words, but Liam subconsciously glanced back at her. The group acted as if they had just noticed her, offering insincere apologies but still showing no intention of letting Liam go. It was as if they were saying, "If you're not happy, you can just leave." Zoe understood their meaning but didn't get angry. Instead, she smiled. "I'm fine with anything." After all, going to the amusement park wasn't her idea. Getting her approval, Liam breathed a sigh of relief and accepted the suggestion. The group wandered aimlessly, trying whatever seemed interesting. They tried gentle rides and, naturally, thrilling ones too. Throughout, he was surrounded by Cassidy, and naturally, he kept Cassidy protected behind him. Anyone who didn't know better would have thought they were the couple. Yet, ironically, his actual girlfriend, Zoe, walked at the very back, and from beginning to end, never once reminded Liam. When they reached the log flume ride, Cassidy suddenly became excited. "Liam, let's go on that one, okay?" Samuel and the others wouldn't refuse Cassidy's suggestion, so they all looked towards Zoe and Liam. Zoe hadn't expressed any opinion from the start. She wasn't afraid of thrilling rides, nor did she dislike gentle ones. She could accept anything and didn't have any particular favorite. Liam shook his head. "You guys go. I don't like these things, so I won't go." Just as he refused, Cassidy grabbed his sleeve and swayed it coquettishly. "Liam, let's go together, I'll be scared if you're not there." Seeing her pitiful expression, Liam couldn't bring himself to refuse again and agreed. But after saying yes, he subconsciously looked at Zoe again. She remained perfectly calm, showing no reaction, as if she didn't care about anything. Her composure made a sudden unease rise in his heart, but Zoe had already walked towards the staff member selling raincoats. A short while later, she returned empty-handed and shook her head at them. "I asked the staff. The raincoats are sold out." Hearing her say this, Liam hesitated again. Cassidy saw his hesitation and quickly tried to persuade him. "It's okay if there are no raincoats. We can just wipe ourselves dry with a towel after we get wet. Liam, I really want to ride it." In the end, Liam still gave in to her. The group boarded the log flume boat. After securing the safety measures, the boat slowly ascended to the highest point and then rapidly descended under the force of gravity. The huge impact created a large splash of water, crashing down on the people in the boat. The moment the water fell, Liam instinctively pulled open his jacket, firmly shielding Cassidy in his embrace. After one full turn, when they got off the boat, everyone except Cassidy was thoroughly drenched. It wasn't until he saw the soaked Zoe that Liam remembered he had been so focused on protecting Cassidy the whole time that he had completely forgotten about her. He cast an apologetic look at her. She didn't mind, even proactively finding an excuse for him. "It's okay, you were closer to her. It's normal to protect her." Zoe, looking completely unfazed, went to a nearby small shop, bought a towel, and started dabbing at her wet clothes and hair. The next attraction was still Cassidy's suggestion, heading towards the escape room. Soon, under the guidance of the person in charge, the group entered the escape room. They chose a horror-themed one. Cassidy, despite being easily scared, insisted on playing and stuck close to Liam's side as soon as they entered. Zoe took in every move they made, but remained silent and quietly watched as Cassidy occasionally shrieked in fright and was then pulled into Liam's embrace. Don't be afraid, it's all fake. The puzzles in the escape room weren't difficult, but because the players each had their own hidden agendas, it took them nearly 2 hours to reach the final stage. The final stage didn't require solving puzzles, but needed them to follow a storyline. According to the instructions, a man and a woman needed to play the roles of bride and groom in a mock wedding ceremony. After completing all the procedures, they would watch a video of an NPC's memories to clear the stage. Logically, Zoe and Liam were the only couple present, so it would have been most appropriate for them to play the roles. But Samuel Taylor spoke up at this moment. I heard Zoe is afraid of ghosts. How about we let Jayatong and Liam play the parts? Chapter 7, as soon as these words were spoken, the other friends chimed in agreement. Zoe Ashton listened to their clumsy excuses but didn't expose them. For example, Cassidy was actually the one who had been screaming in fear all along the way. For another, even if Zoe truly couldn't do it and Cassidy had to, there were so many people present, it wasn't necessary for Liam Spencer to be the one to play the groom. Liam didn't agree, nor did he refuse, but Cassidy spoke up at this moment. That wouldn't be right. If Killen and I play the parts, Tingwin will get angry later. Though her words were a refusal, her hand kept holding Liam's, not letting go, and her eyes, when she looked at Zoe, were full of provocation. Just then, Zoe, who had been listening quietly, moved. The moment she moved, Samuel and the others thought she was angry again and started to criticize her in roundabout ways. It's just a game, why do you care so much? Zoe scoffed inwardly, but feigned confusion on her face. What are you talking about? Aren't we still missing an efficient? I'm just here to be the efficient. With that, she walked to the efficient's position, signaling Liam and Cassidy to quickly stand in their corresponding places. Everyone was surprised by her reaction. After exchanging glances, they started jeering, saying that since sister-in-law said it was okay, they should hurry up. Once everything was arranged, she began to recite the vows. The procedure went smoothly until Zoe said, "And now, I invite the groom and bride to kiss." Liam's movements suddenly stopped. Seeing him stop abruptly, Zoe didn't ask why. She walked straight behind him, gave him a sharp push, and sent him stumbling towards Cassidy. And Liam, stumbling, his lips landed on Cassidy's cheek. As the kiss landed, the curtain behind them began to play a video. From the perspective of the female protagonist, it told the story of how she was deceived by a heartless man, her love misplaced, and died on her wedding day. Her soul, unable to find release, was trapped in this house, becoming a vengeful ghost, vowing to kill all heartless men in the world. Finally, she was moved by the sincere love between the players, let go of her obsession, and Ray entered the cycle of reincarnation. The story ended, and the last door opened. The group emerged from the room, their expressions varying as they thought about the sincere love mentioned in the final video. Only Zoe's expression remained unchanged, seemingly unaffected. Tingwin, Jayatong and I just now were only... Liam was about to explain, but Zoe cut him off before he could finish. I know everything. It was just a game. Her expression was calm, but he remembered her final push. Then, what did you mean by that push at the end? What kind of girlfriend would actively push her boyfriend towards someone else? He stared intently at Zoe, as if trying to find some clue on her face, but she just smiled. What else could it mean? I just wanted to clear the game faster and finish. Liam wanted to say more, but Cassidy, who was following behind, suddenly quickened her pace, walked to Liam's side, and took his hand. Killen, I'm hungry. There's a restaurant up ahead, let's go get something to eat. Seeing Cassidy say she was hungry, Liam subconsciously glanced at the time. It was already lunchtime. They really should eat. He nodded and started walking towards the restaurant. Samuel and the others, seeing this, tactfully waved their hands. We should head back too. We won't join you. If I don't go back soon, my girlfriend will be looking for me. After saying that, he didn't forget to give Cassidy an ambiguous thumbs up, and after saying goodbye to Liam, turned and walked towards the exit. Zoe, deliberately ignored by everyone, glanced at Liam and Cassidy standing closely together and also spoke up. You guys go eat. I have some errands to run, so I'll leave first. With that, without looking at their reactions, she walked straight out. Zoe saying she had errands wasn't an excuse. Some time ago, she had applied for a passport, and today was the day she could pick it up. After leaving the amusement park, Zoe took a cab straight to the passport office to collect her passport. After getting her passport, the first thing she did was take a photo and post it on her social media, holding up the passport and her offer letter with a caption. Embarking on a new journey in life visible to everyone, except she had blocked Cassidy Thorne, Liam Spencer, and all his buddies. She had originally just wanted to share her joy, but unexpectedly, 3 days later, she received an unforeseen call. It was from Professor Eleanor Vance, her university mentor who had taught her for 4 years. They hadn't contacted each other since Zoe had given up her beloved career for Liam. Thinking back now, Professor Vance must have been disappointed in her for not fighting for herself. "Professor Vance, why did you suddenly think of calling me?" On the other end of the line, Professor Vance's voice was cheerful. "I heard you're going abroad to pick up design again. Coincidentally, there's a class reunion tomorrow. Let's get together, consider it a farewell for you." Thinking of her long unseen mentor and classmates, Zoe didn't hesitate and agreed. That night, she went to bed early in the guest room, not even noticing when Liam came back. Chapter 8. The next day, Zoe Ashton left the house and took a cab straight to the address Professor Eleanor Vance had sent her. As soon as she walked into the reserved private room, Professor Vance beckoned her to sit beside her. Since it was a class reunion, even though they hadn't seen each other for years, there was no shortage of topics to discuss. The group ate and chatted, and time passed quickly. Zoe was talking with Professor Vance when her phone suddenly rang. She picked it up and saw it was a call from an intern at Liam Spencer's law firm. As soon as the call connected, the intern's flustered voice came through. "Miss Zoe, Attorney Spencer is having another stomach ache, but I don't know what medicine he needs. What should I do?" Zoe didn't hide anything and directly told the intern the names of the 2 medications he usually took. Then, a rustling sound came from the other end, followed by the intern's voice, tinged with tears. "Miss Zoe, I couldn't find them in the office. Could you please bring them over?" If it had been before, Zoe would have immediately agreed upon hearing the intern's words. But now, she refused without any hesitation. "If you can't find them, just go buy them at a nearby pharmacy or have them delivered. It's very convenient, I won't be coming over." After saying that, she hung up. Seeing this, Professor Vance, who had been silent, asked, "Is that the boyfriend who made you give up everything back then?" Zoe nodded. "Yes, then will he agree to you going abroad?" Professor Vance looked at Zoe, her voice filled with unspoken concern. Zoe had been the top student in her department, loved jewelry design, had talent, and was willing to work hard. She had a bright future ahead of her, but because of a relationship, she willingly gave up jewelry design to wholeheartedly take care of her boyfriend. She was afraid that Zoe would once again give up this hard-won opportunity because her boyfriend disagreed. But to her relief, Zoe quickly shook her head. "It doesn't matter if he agrees or not. I've already decided to break up with him." Unexpectedly, just asking casually yielded such a pleasant surprise. Professor Vance burst out laughing. "Good, that's how a woman should be. How can you give up your future for a man? Zoe, you were the most talented student I ever taught. If you had continued on this path, your future would have been dazzling. It's a pity you made a wrong choice once. This time, you must make a name for yourself." Zoe listened with a faint smile. "I will, because I've learned how to love myself." By the time the class reunion ended and Zoe returned home, it was already very late. She pushed open the door and walked into the living room. When the lights came on, she looked up and saw Liam Spencer sitting on the sofa, his face grim. She was startled at first, but upon recognizing Liam, she frowned unconsciously. "What are you doing here?" Liam, pale-faced, stared intently at Zoe. After a long moment, he finally spoke, but not to answer her question. "Where did you go, coming back so late? Don't you know I had a stomachache today? Why didn't you come find me?" Several questions in a row, enough to express his dissatisfaction. But contrary to his displeasure, she looked at him, her face still only calm. "I didn't come over today, firstly because I genuinely had something to do, and secondly, I'm very far from your office, so there was really no need. It would have been more appropriate for you to have someone buy it or order delivery. Even if I went, I couldn't have helped you." With that, she prepared to leave again. Liam finally couldn't maintain his composure, his voice involuntarily rising. "Zoe Ashton, you weren't like this before." She looked at him faintly. "What was I like before?" Liam's body trembled slightly, and he looked like he was about to become more agitated. Zoe pressed her temples and suddenly reached out to grab him. She spoke, but her words made him feel as if he had fallen into an ice cave. "All right, it's too late and I'm very tired. Calm down, I'm going to bed." Chapter 9, with only 2 days left before her departure, Zoe Ashton deleted and blocked Liam Spencer and all his friends from her contacts and social media. Anyway, she wasn't the one he liked, and the sister-in-law they truly acknowledged was Cassidy Thorne. After she went abroad, there would be no need to contact these people anymore. After deleting her friends, she then went into all the group chats she had once painstakingly joined for Liam's sake and left every single one. Having cleared away everything related to him, Zoe started to pack her luggage. After all, she had lived here for 5 years, and packing up took quite a bit of effort. Fortunately, Liam had said this morning that the law firm had a new case and had rushed out, giving her time to pack. After placing her suitcases by the door and finishing everything, Liam happened to push open the door and walk in. As soon as he entered, he saw the suitcases piled by the door. A sudden ominous premonition rose in his heart. He asked her, "What's all this?" She was a little surprised that Liam had returned so early today, but looking at the suitcases, her expression remained unchanged as she casually found an excuse. "A lot of things are old. I'm planning to replace them. These are things I'm going to throw away." He looked at them doubtfully, but eventually withdrew his gaze. Liam had returned at this time today for other reasons. Thinking about it made his blood boil, and there was a faint hint of fear in his voice. "Why did you suddenly delete me?" Not expecting him to discover he had been deleted so quickly, Zoe then took out her phone, logged out of her account, feigned surprise, and replied, "Oh dear, why did my account log out?" Under Liam's gaze, she fiddled with her phone, logged back into her account, and looked at him apologetically. "You were probably deleted as a friend for the same reason. My account was hacked." Perhaps her acting was too obvious, or perhaps he had noticed her recent strangeness, but he didn't quite believe Zoe's excuse. "Then add me back now. I'll watch you add me." He didn't move an inch, standing firmly in front of her. Zoe had no choice but to pick up her phone and point it at the QR code he showed. Before the information could scan, his phone suddenly rang. The name Jayatong appeared on the screen, and he immediately put his phone away. The call connected. Zoe didn't know what was said on the other end, only saw his expression change slightly. "Jayatong, don't worry, I'm coming over right away." As soon as he finished speaking, he turned and went out the door again. Zoe calmly closed the Add Friend interface. Just as she was about to put her phone away, a trending topic suddenly popped up. The search term was Cassidy Thorne plagiarism. Cassidy Thorne was a popular up-and-coming jewelry designer in recent years, solely because she had participated in a national newcomers competition and won the championship after overcoming many obstacles. But now it was exposed that her most sought-after championship design was plagiarized. Coincidentally, what she had plagiarized was Zoe Ashton's design. No wonder Cassidy had called Liam so urgently just now. Liam was her ex-boyfriend and a lawyer. He would surely be the quickest to help her solve the problem. Unfortunately, plagiarism in the design world was a dead end. Cassidy was digging her own grave, but none of this had anything to do with her. She opened a ticketing app and booked a flight to London for the next day. Now, everything was ready. All she had to do was leave tomorrow. Liam Spencer returned the next morning. He looked hurried. When he saw Zoe Ashton eating breakfast, he hesitated for a moment, but finally spoke. "Tingwen, the design drafts Jayatong released a few days ago were exposed for plagiarism. I've seen the original manuscript. It's the True Love series you posted on your social media 5 years ago. She has already issued a statement saying she didn't plagiarize and that you two have a collaborative relationship. Could you log into your social media and repost it? Help her out this once." 5 years ago, when she decided to quit the jewelry design industry, she had pulled several all-nighters just to give a conclusion to the already released True Love series. At that time, he had also asked her, since she loved jewelry design so much, why she was giving it up. And her answer was that her career was not as important as him. The True Love series was the first series she released after they got together. designed for him, and ultimately ended because of him. Liam knew best how much the True Love series meant to her, yet he still made such a request for Cassidy's sake, asking the plagiarized to clarify for the plagiarist. She found it somewhat amusing and couldn't help but laugh out loud. She looked up at him. "Do you really want me to help her repost it?" He looked at her without speaking, but Zoe still understood his meaning. He wanted her to help Cassidy, and the reason he proposed it was because he was sure she wouldn't refuse him. After all, he knew best how much Zoe loved him. Looking at her calm eyes, Liam felt a little guilty. After thinking for a moment, he decided to offer her some compensation. "Didn't you really want to go to the Whitsunday Islands before? After you post the statement, we'll go together, okay?" Saying this, as if to express his determination, he bought 2 plane tickets to Australia right in front of Zoe. But just as he finished paying, Cassidy's call came in again. "Helen, someone has published my address. There are a lot of people blocking my building downstairs. I'm so scared," her tearful voice came through the phone. Upon hearing Cassidy was being besieged, Liam instantly panicked. He only had time to quickly instruct Zoe to be sure to repost the clarification before rushing out the door again. And she just quietly watched his back disappear at the doorway, without trying to stop him. After a while, she leisurely finished her breakfast, cleaned the dishes, and then took out her phone, logging into the social media account she hadn't used in 5 years. She reposted Cassidy's defensive post and added a caption of 8 bold characters. No collaboration, just plagiarism. After posting, she ignored the ensuing storm, removed her phone's SIM card, snapped it in half, and threw it into the trash can before getting up to retrieve her luggage from her room. Taking one last look at this home, she turned and left, hailed a cab, and headed straight for the airport with all her luggage. This time, she wouldn't stop for anyone. Chapter 10, the social media post quickly sparked heated discussions. The original creator, stepping forward to name Cassidy Thorne as a plagiarist, made her previous denial and claims of collaborative inspiration, just half an hour earlier, seem utterly ridiculous. Netizens' anger surged, and some extremists even found Cassidy's exact address, painting "copycat crook" "drop dead" in large, scarlet letters on her front door. At that moment, Liam Spencer was in Cassidy's apartment, comforting her and telling her not to be afraid. "Jayatong, it's okay. I'm a lawyer. I won't let any of these people who exposed your personal information and came here to intimidate you get away with it. They'll pay the price." But his comfort failed to stop Cassidy's tears. Instead, she cried even harder. She pulled up the social media post Zoe Ashton had made a short while ago, accusing her of plagiarism, and threw herself into Liam's arms, her voice full of grievance and fear. "Helen, didn't you say Tingwen promised to help me clarify? Why is she still saying I plagiarized? Is it because she still won't forgive me?" She wept pitifully, a sight that pained Liam deeply. Hearing her say that Zoe had posted, but it was to accuse her, a surge of anger welled up in him. He subconsciously wanted to look for Zoe's contact, but then remembered that yesterday, when he said he'd watch her add him back, Cassidy's call had interrupted, and he hadn't received a friend request since. It was clear she hadn't added him back. Helpless, he could only look for her phone number, but when he dialed, he discovered he had been blocked. Connecting this with the suitcases he had seen piled by the door yesterday, an absurd thought emerged. He forced himself to remain calm and searched through the group chats Zoe had once painstakingly joined to be connected with him, scrolling through the member lists again and again, but he couldn't find that familiar profile picture. He tried every method he could think of to find Zoe, but all ended in failure. Even on her social media platform, he had been blocked. The unease in his heart intensified. He then called Samuel Taylor and the others, not even bothering to pay attention when Cassidy asked him what was wrong. "Can you contact Tingwen?" He got straight to the point, directly stating his purpose. But after asking everyone, the answer was always that they suddenly couldn't reach her. Only then did Liam realize he couldn't find Zoe Ashton. A flicker of confusion crossed his eyes, unsure of what had happened. He subconsciously got up and walked towards the door. Seeing him about to leave, Cassidy instantly panicked. "Helen, where are you going? Don't leave me, I'll be scared alone," the tactic that had always worked before suddenly failed. Liam pushed her away, went straight down to the underground garage, got in his car, and drove directly home. Cassidy didn't dare go out alone. Seeing him leave regardless, she could only slam the door shut in resentment. When she walked to the window, she saw Liam's car speeding away. 20 minutes later, Liam returned home. Pushing open the door, he searched room by room but found no sign of Zoe. Upon closer inspection, it wasn't just Zoe who was missing, but all her luggage as well. He searched the rooms carefully, trying to find any trace of Zoe's presence. In the end, he only found a note on the nightstand in the master bedroom. Liam Spencer, let's break up. 8 short words, yet they struck Liam's heart like a heavy hammer. Zoe wanted to break up with him, but she clearly loved him so much, how could she bear to let go? Back then, for his sake, she had even given up her favorite jewelry design. Now, just because he asked her to issue a clarifying statement for Cassidy, she had abandoned him. Liam couldn't believe it, yet he had to. Zoe had left so decisively, without giving him any chance to make her stay. He didn't even know where she had gone after leaving. Had she gone to another city or another country? Chapter 11, Liam Spencer stared at the empty room, feeling his own heart hollow out. A wave of sorrow swept over him, relentlessly assailing his sanity. He even tried rushing back to the law firm, using a colleague's phone to call Zoe Ashton, but no matter how many times he tried, the other end only produced the cold, mechanical female voice. The user you are calling cannot be reached. Then his own phone rang. He picked it up. It was Cassidy Thorne. "Killin, where did you go? I'm so scared." Cassidy's delicate voice came through the phone, but his heart no longer felt the initial anxiety he had upon hearing it. He rubbed his temples, silent for a long time, until low sobs came from the other end. Only then did he speak, his voice weary. "I've taken your case, and I'll see it through to the end. Don't worry, I won't let those who used illegal means get away with it." In the end, Liam did help Cassidy quell the storm. Although he couldn't wash away her reputation for plagiarism, he made an example of those who had published Cassidy's private information and thrown paint on her door by having them detained for a few days. But after this incident, news of Zoe and Liam's breakup spread, or more accurately, news of her silent departure. The moment Samuel Taylor and the others heard about it, they immediately asked Liam out. As soon as he arrived at the bar, they all crowded around him. No wonder Liam has been busy handling Jayatong's case these past few days, and Zoe Ashton hasn't come looking for him. Turns out she finally had the self-awareness to give up. "Hey, Liam, since she's sensibly let go, when are you planning to get back together with Jayatong?" They chattered on, but Liam didn't understand what they meant. "Get back together with whom? What do you mean, don't you like Jayatong?" At these words, the others were the ones who stared blankly. "You're not planning to get back with Jayatong? Why would I get back with her?" Liam took a swig from a bottle of beer, his eyes filled with dejection. These past few days, he had tried all sorts of methods but still couldn't find out where Zoe had gone. The only information he could find was that Zoe had eventually gone abroad. As for which country or city she ended up in, it was unknown. He shook his head, his voice laced with disappointment. "Right now, I just want to find Tingwin quickly." "Find Zoe Ashton for what? Liam, don't tell me you've actually fallen for Zoe Ashton." Samuel's eyes were wide with disbelief, looking at Liam, who had aged considerably in just a few days, as if he had just realized something. Liam drank his beer gulp after gulp. Hearing Samuel's question, he suddenly paused. Fallen for Zoe Ashton? He had never considered this question. It was just that with Zoe's silent departure, he always felt an emptiness in his heart, and he wasn't used to it. After a long silence, he gave a self-deprecating laugh and spoke softly. "She's my girlfriend. We were together for 5 years. Isn't it normal to fall in love with her? If you like her, why? Then what's the deal with Jayatong?" On the other side, Gabriel Young snatched the bottle from his hand and set it aside, his eyes full of confusion. "We all thought you liked Jayatong and were forced to be with Zoe Ashton by Auntie Helen. So we all tried our best to help you and Jayatong be alone together, and you never refused. Now you're saying you like Zoe Ashton?" Liam picked up another bottle of beer, leaned back on the sofa, his whole being exuding an air of dejection, his voice filled with annoyance. "I don't know. I only know that the day I found out she left, my heart felt like a piece was missing. Whatever I do, I think of her." He thought they would side with him, but unexpectedly, when he finished speaking, the others looked at him with complicated expressions. Finally, it was Gabriel who scoffed, placing the beer bottle back in front of him. Liam Spencer, you deserve this. Chapter 12. The others drank with him for a while, then gradually dispersed, leaving Liam Spencer alone in the private room, drinking himself into a stupor, glass after glass. Liam rarely let himself go like this. During his school days, he was always the other family's child, constrained by the image of a good student, never daring to do anything out of line. The first time he indulged himself was the year he met Cassidy Thorne. She didn't have good grades and was often bullied and isolated in class. Liam remembered her vividly because he had encountered her being bullied several times. He had helped her a few times, and as a result, she had latched onto him. Later, Liam discovered that Cassidy was very popular with the opposite sex. Even his own friends liked her. Even he, at the time, couldn't resist and fell in love with Cassidy during their time together. They dated for 3 years. Liam had planned to introduce her to his parents after graduation and then propose, but Helen Spencer disliked Cassidy. She felt Cassidy was too calculating, so she paid to send Cassidy abroad and then arrange the blind date with Zoe Ashton. Actually, initially, he hated Zoe Ashton. Although Cassidy's departure had nothing to do with her, she had ultimately taken Cassidy's place. At that time, he thought he would absolutely never fall in love with her. But later, Zoe gave up so much for Liam. Every time he asked her why, Zoe would say that in her heart, he was the most important, and for Liam, she could give up anything, want for nothing. He began to be moved by her unreserved love, and his attitude towards her softened. It was at this time that Cassidy returned. She swept back in, carrying the embers of his not yet extinguished love, and he once again distanced himself from Zoe. Because he felt that if it weren't for Zoe, his girlfriend now would be Cassidy, the one he truly liked. He also thought that what he wanted was Cassidy. Until later, every time Samuel Taylor and the others egged them on, creating opportunities for him and Cassidy, he didn't refuse, but a resistance began to appear in his heart. At that time, he thought, just one last time, and from then on, he would only treat Cassidy as a friend. He prided himself on being able to do it. Initially, when Zoe started to let him spend time with Cassidy, he really thought he had handled both relationships well. Later, it was his indulgence, wanting to test her limits, but he never expected she would choose to leave at that moment. He couldn't help but think, perhaps, he really did deserve it. The beer bottle in front of him was more than half empty, and Liam's consciousness gradually blurred. Vaguely, he seemed to see a familiar figure. He reached out to her, saw her smile and help him up, leading him towards a private room upstairs. "Wanwen, is that you? You're back, this isn't a dream, is it?" Her movements paused, but she quickly recovered, her voice gentle, somewhat different from his memory. "Yes, I'm back. Let me help you rest first." But Liam, his consciousness already hazy, was in no state to distinguish. With a ding, the elevator stopped. He was helped into a room, and the next second he was placed on the soft, large bed. He fell soundly asleep. Beside the bed, Cassidy Thorne's fingers traced over his closed eyes, finally landing on the buttons of his shirt, a flash of resentment in her eyes. "Liam Spencer, you are mine. I won't let you fall in love with anyone else. In this lifetime, you can only be with me." With that, she removed her own clothes and lay down beside him. Chapter 13, 5 years later. New York City Airport. Zoe Ashton, in a red dress and sunglasses, walked out of the airport. Returning to the land where she had lived for many years, she couldn't help but feel a bit emotional. When she went to London, she had intended to stay there permanently. But after 5 years, she finally understood why London was called a food desert. Fortunately, London also had Chinese supermarkets, and she could cook her own Chinese food, so her life wasn't too difficult. Therefore, upon learning that the company intended to open a branch in her home country, she immediately applied to return with the team. The main group was still behind, not yet out. Zoe pushed her luggage cart and stopped to the side of the exit, waiting for them. Just then, a familiar male voice sounded from behind her, tinged with disbelief. "Wanwen, is that you?" The moment his voice fell, a shadow fell over her. She looked up. Who else could the person before her be but Liam Spencer? After 5 years, he finally saw the person he had dreamed of seeing. His voice trembled and he reached out, wanting to pull her into his embrace. But Zoe's actions were quicker. The moment he reached out, she took a step back. "Mr. Spencer, please show some self-respect." The distant address made Liam freeze, and her retreating motion pained his heart even more. Wanwen, where have you been all these years? I've been looking for you for 5 whole years. I finally found you. Mr. Spencer, where I went is none of your business, nor did I ask you to look for me. Besides, our relationship isn't close enough for you to call me Wanwen. His eyes held a deep affection she couldn't understand. Seeing his eyes instantly turn red, she remained cold and distant. Mr. Spencer, you can call me Miss Ashton. He shook his head, still in disbelief. Wanwen, how could we have no relationship? You're still angry with me, right? I know I was wrong. Can you give me another chance? I promise I won't disappoint you this time. Zoe sighed helplessly, for the first time understanding what it meant to talk to a brick wall. Liam Spencer, are you incapable of understanding plain English? I'm angry with you. Angry about what? Have you forgotten we broke up 5 years ago? Give you another chance. Liam Spencer, on what grounds? Zoe, are you ready? We should go. During the entanglement, the others had already reached the exit. Looking back, they saw Zoe still lingering and reminded her. Hearing this, Zoe pushed her luggage cart past Liam. I have things to do. I don't have time to get entangled with you here. Excuse me. With that, without looking at his reaction, she quickened her pace and left with her luggage. Liam wanted to chase after her, but was stopped by a hand reaching out from beside him. She doesn't seem to want anything to do with you. Sir, persistent pestering isn't what a gentleman does. The man's voice was gentle, but Liam frowned. This is between her and me. Who are you, and what right do you have to meddle in our affairs? On the grounds that I am her boyfriend. A sarcastic and disdainful smile touched the corners of the man's lips. Someone is harassing my girlfriend. Mr. Lawyer, you tell me, if I'm not qualified to intervene, who is? Liam detected the hostility in his words, but remained non-committal about him being her boyfriend. After all, when Zoe left just now, she clearly had no intention of waiting for anyone. The person she likes is me. His tone was confident, but as soon as he finished speaking, the man in front of him laughed out loud. I don't know where some people get such thick skin. You're just a thing of the past, and I am her present. And you're telling me she likes you. Perhaps she did like you once. But since certain people have already chosen someone else, why bother pestering her now? Chapter 14. Liam Spencer didn't want to believe it, but the man spoke with such conviction, even recounting details of his and Zoe Ashton's past as if they were common knowledge, that unease began to stir in his heart. Had Zoe really fallen for someone else? But she had loved him so much. How could she so easily fall for another? He looked at the man before him, his lips pressed tightly together. After a long moment, he spoke reluctantly. I won't give up on her. No matter who you are, don't even think about snatching her away from me. My name is Julian Kingsley. You're welcome to try. Julian Kingsley raised an eyebrow slightly, completely unfazed by his harsh words, finding them merely amusing. Snatch her away from him? What a joke. Zoe had already left him proactively 5 years ago, and he was still lost in the dreams of the past, thinking she was still his possession. He looked at Liam as if observing a buffoon, scanned him up and down, then slowly walked in the direction Zoe had left. Liam, left standing there, felt his face flush red then turn pale. Julian Kingsley, the sole heir to the Kingsley Group, one of New York's wealthiest families. He and Zoe were worlds apart. How could they possibly know each other? Besides, wasn't that Julian Kingsley rumored to have a foreign girlfriend? How could his girlfriend be Zoe? Wasn't he deceiving her? He clenched his fists, anger surging in his heart as he watched Julian's retreating back. He would definitely find Zoe and expose Julian's true colors. He wouldn't let his scheme succeed. Zoe knew that since she and Liam were both in New York, they were bound to meet. However, she hadn't expected New York to be this small. Liam's law firm actually had a partnership with the legal department of DW's domestic branch. Fortunately, she was in charge of the jewelry design department and generally wouldn't have much contact with legal affairs. So, when she saw that the legal representative was Liam, she was only surprised for a moment and didn't pay too much attention. Until just after lunch, she saw a bouquet of fiery red roses on her desk. A colleague who returned with her exclaimed, "Wow, Zoe, your man is quite romantic." But when the colleague looked back at Zoe, she noticed there wasn't a hint of happiness on her face. Zoe didn't even hesitate before throwing the bouquet straight into the trash can. Such beautiful flowers, why throw them away? The colleague looked at the roses in the trash, a little regretful. Zoe, however, smiled. If my boyfriend saw them, he'd get jealous. You know how it is, young Master Kingsley gets jealous easily. Hearing her words, the colleague realized the flowers weren't from Julian Kingsley. Curiosity gleamed in her eyes, her voice full of a desire to know. How do you know these flowers aren't from him? Thinking of Julian, a sweet smile inadvertently appeared on her face. He knows I don't like roses. As the two talked, they didn't notice a gaze fixed on them from not far away. And that person was, indeed, Liam Spencer. He couldn't hear what Zoe and her colleague were saying, only saw her throw the roses into the trash without hesitation, without even checking first. After a brief moment of disappointment, Liam became even more convinced of his thoughts. Indeed, Zoe didn't like Julian Kingsley. Otherwise, upon seeing roses, a symbol of love, she would at least have checked if Julian sent them before deciding whether to throw them away, right? Moreover, Julian hadn't appeared even once in the past few days. Coupled with Zoe's decisive act of throwing away the flowers, didn't this indicate they weren't genuinely fond of each other, perhaps not even a couple? So, did this also mean he wasn't entirely out of chances? Chapter 15, joy welled up in his heart, sweeping away the gloomy mood of recent days. Having gotten the answer he wanted, Liam Spencer frequently glanced at the clock on the wall. This was probably the day in the past 5 years he had most eagerly anticipated quitting time. Time ticked by, minute by minute. Finally, when it was time to get off work, Liam quickly went downstairs and waited by Zoe Ashton's car. 10 minutes later, Zoe, having packed her things and ready to go home, saw Liam waiting by her car. When he saw her approaching, the smile on his face could no longer be hidden. "Wanwan, do you have time today? My mom heard you're back in the country and has been really wanting to see you." Zoe had initially planned to leave directly, but her movements paused when he mentioned Helen Spencer. Although she and Liam had broken up, Helen had been reasonably good to her during their 5 years together. It wouldn't hurt to pay her a visit. "I'll visit when I have time." With that said, she got into her car. As the car started, he still wouldn't leave. The car window muffled his voice, but she still heard his words clearly. "Wanwan, I don't know what your relationship with Julian Kingsley is, but I want to tell you, he's definitely not a good person. He already has a girlfriend abroad. Wanwan, I can't bear to see you being deceived. Can you just listen to me for a moment?" The car window slowly rolled down, revealing Zoe's delicate profile. "What else do you want to say? But let me remind you first, if it's about Julian and me, you don't need to say any more. Our business has nothing to do with you." The phrase, "our business, has nothing to do with you," completely dispelled the joy that had just risen in Liam's eyes. She had completely separated herself from them, but he still felt unwilling. He had only made one mistake, why wouldn't she even give him a single chance? A hurt expression appeared on Liam's face, but he quickly spoke before Zoe's patience ran out. "Wanwan, you have to believe me, my love for you is real, and everything I say is true. Guys like Julian Kingsley, those rich kids, do they have any sincerity? Has he ever told you that he has another girlfriend abroad?" He spoke with sincerity and earnestness, but Zoe paid no attention to his words. She turned her head, finally looking at Liam seriously, but the look in her eyes was not the gratitude and joy he imagined, but deep mockery. "Liam Spencer, 5 years no see, and you've become such a gossip monger. Indeed, a person's heart is like a mirror. What kind of person you are, you think others are the same. What kind of person Julian Kingsley is, he's my boyfriend, I know him better than you do. Before you slander others, did you ever consider that his girlfriend abroad is me?" Hearing her words, Liam froze. He had never imagined Zoe's answer would be like this, never thought her opinion of him would be so low. He stood there blankly, watching Zoe roll up the car window and drive away. 20 minutes later, Zoe returned to her rented apartment. As she opened the door, she saw Julian Kingsley in an apron. Seeing her return, a gentle smile immediately bloomed on his face. "You're back. Just one more soup and dinner will be ready." Looking at his novel attire, Zoe was somewhat surprised. She reached out and pinched his approaching cheek. "You can actually cook. How many more surprises do you have that I don't know about?" Julian smiled indulgently and pulled Zoe to sit at the dining table. "I just learned today. Wanna try?" She glanced at the 4 dishes on the table, all simple home-style dishes. Though simple, they looked quite presentable. She picked up her chopsticks and tried a bite. Surprise bloomed in her eyes, and she immediately gave him a thumbs up. Delicious, Zoe praised him generously, then sighed, I never thought you'd have a talent for cooking. Finally, she made a decision. It's this good on your first try. It seems young Master Kingsley has quite a talent for cooking. Then, cooking will be your job from now on. Seemingly not expecting Zoe's reaction, Julian froze for a moment. After recovering, he couldn't help but chuckle. You're really not polite. You're probably the only one who dares to order around the heir to the Kingsley group like this. Chapter 16. The next day at noon, when it was lunchtime, Zoe Ashton was about to go downstairs to eat when Liam Spencer walked over with an insulated lunchbox. Wanwen, you haven't eaten yet, have you? I brought you lunch. Let's eat together, he said, preparing to place the lunchbox on her desk. Who knew? She stopped his action. No need, I'll just go downstairs and eat by myself. Zoe Ashton refused without leaving any room for negotiation, yet he still wouldn't give up. Liam Spencer smiled somewhat forcedly, but still pushed the lunchbox towards her. I brought this especially for you, just accept. Before he could finish his sentence, a sharp female voice came from behind him. Liam Spencer, I prepared that for you. How dare you give my heartfelt gesture to some other little minx? Zoe Ashton turned her head and saw that this was also an acquaintance. It was Cassidy Thorne. Her voice was sharp and harsh, sounding particularly piercing in the quiet office. Others in the office couldn't help but frown. Zoe Ashton pushed the lunchbox back. Compared to the panicked Liam Spencer, she appeared remarkably calm. She said it herself, it was prepared for you. What's the deal with you bringing it for me to eat? This scene couldn't help but remind him of the time 5 years ago when Zoe Ashton had decided to leave. She was like this then too, no matter what happened, she always looked completely unfazed. She didn't care who he was with, nor did she care about him. In his days, Cassidy Thorne had already walked closer. Upon seeing that familiar face, she was momentarily speechless. 5 years ago, she had taken advantage of Liam Spencer's drunkenness when he mistook her for Zoe Ashton and climbed into his bed. Although he didn't acknowledge it after sobering up, he could no longer get rid of her. She paraded herself as Liam Spencer's girlfriend, driving away all romantic prospects around him. Liam, too lazy to deal with those women, let her be. Although no one said it, Cassidy knew that Liam's tolerance was conditional on her not bullying Zoe Ashton. After a brief silence, intense hatred welled up in Cassidy's eyes again. Before Zoe Ashton appeared, Liam had loved her the most, and only her. Even when she first found out Zoe and Liam were together, Cassidy hadn't panicked, because she knew that as soon as she appeared, Liam would return to her side. Later, things indeed turned out as she expected. After she returned to the country, although Liam didn't break up with Zoe, with just a slight beckon of her finger, Liam would unhesitatingly abandon Zoe and come to her side. Until Zoe suddenly went abroad. She left, but it seemed she also took Liam's soul with her. From then on, Liam's world only contained her. And Cassidy transformed from his unforgettable white moonlight into a clinging vine who could only resort to schemes to stay by his side. She looked at Zoe with eyes full of resentment. Since you already left, why did you come back? Seeing her chase after him, Liam Spencer instantly panicked. Why did you come here? After asking, he quickly looked at Zoe and explained, Wanwen, listen to my explanation, I have nothing to do with her. Zoe Ashton ignored their emotions, irritably pushing them both aside. Liam Spencer, I don't know what you two are trying to do, but I really don't have time to play these childish games with you. This is an office, not your marketplace for arguing. Don't block the way and affect other people's work. She walked straight out. As she reached the doorway, a man's figure appeared, impeccably dressed in a suit, his hair neatly styled. He immediately put his arm around Zoe's shoulder. Let's go, I'll take you to lunch. She raised an eyebrow, looking at Julian Kingsley, who was like a peacock showing off its feathers and didn't refuse his closeness. Why are you here? If I didn't come soon, my wife would have been snatched away. Julian Kingsley's voice was tinged with resentment. When he looked back at Liam Spencer, his eyes held a hidden warning. If Regina hadn't called me, were you not planning to tell me? With just one look, Liam Spencer and Cassidy Thorne behind him dared not take another step. With their status, they simply couldn't contend with the heir to the Kingsley group. But to give up just like that, he was unwilling. Finally, Liam Spencer could only turn his gaze to Cassidy Thorne, his voice full of anger. Cassidy Thorne, who told you to come here? Get lost and go back immediately. Chapter 17, as his words fell, Cassidy Thorne's eyes immediately reddened, tears welling up. She reached out and tugged his sleeve, begging softly, "Killin, I know I was wrong. I won't follow you without permission next time. Please don't send me away." Seeing more and more people looking over, Liam Spencer didn't want to get entangled with her further. He tossed the lunchbox into the trash can by her feet. "Since you're so attached to your lunchbox, you don't need to bring me any from now on." With that, he slapped her hand away and turned to leave with a cold face. Seeing him leave, Cassidy instantly panicked. Forgetting about the discarded lunchbox, she quickly followed him. Meanwhile, Zoe Ashton and Julian Kingsley had already arrived at the restaurant. She finished ordering first, then handed the menu to Julian. "Our company is hosting a party next week. We can bring a +1. Do you want to come?" "Of course, I'm going." Julian finished ordering, handed the menu back to the waiter standing by, and nodded. "I can't bear to see you watching everyone else in pairs while you're all alone. Since you've already invited me, I'll reluctantly accompany you." Zoe shot him an annoyed glance, then paused. "Forget it. Since you're so reluctant, I'll just find someone else to go with me." Saying this, she actually took out her phone and pretended to message someone else. Julian, hearing her, looked at Zoe in disbelief. "I was just saying it casually. Are you really going to strip me of my +1 status? So cruel." The meal ended amidst their playful banter. By the time they returned to the company, Liam Spencer had already left. But from that day on, he completely latched onto Zoe Ashton, sending flowers and meals daily. Even though they were always thrown into the trash can, he never got discouraged. A week passed in a flash, and soon it was the day of the company banquet. Zoe Ashton walked into the venue, arm in arm with Julian Kingsley. As soon as they entered, many people came over, holding wine glasses. After exchanging a few pleasantries with everyone, she suddenly regretted bringing him. Apart from some business owners in the industry, although everyone greeted her first, 9 out of 10 were there for Julian. Zoe didn't particularly enjoy dealing with these business social obligations, but those people always liked to use her as an entry point. The result was that what should have been Julian's social event ended up being most tiring for Zoe. Half an hour later, Zoe rubbed her cheeks, which were almost stiff from smiling, and glared at Julian. "You handle them yourself. I need to go rest for a bit." Zoe took a small piece of cake, found a corner to sit down, and ate it in small bites. Before she could finish the small cake, an unwelcome sight appeared before her. "Wanwen, why are you here all alone?" Liam Spencer had a smile on his face, his eyes full of deep affection as he looked at Zoe. "Didn't young Master Kingsley come with you? See, I told you those rich young masters have no true feelings. Look, he's not even willing to accompany you to a banquet." Her expression didn't change. She didn't even glance at him, and was about to get up and find another spot. But as soon as she moved, Liam followed. After a standoff, her face was full of impatience. She looked at him. "Spit it out." After her rare use of a curse word, Liam looked embarrassed and forced a smile. "Wanwen, during the time you were away, I really did a lot of thinking. I used to think the person I liked was Cassidy Thorne, and I hurt you. I apologize. But in the 5 years after you left, I realized that the pain of losing you was far more severe than when Cassidy left. I then realized, Wanwen, that I had actually fallen in love with you long ago. My feelings for Cassidy were just a lingering obsession from the past. Wanwen, can you give me another chance to make amends?" Chapter 18, he spoke with such sincerity that if Zoe Ashton hadn't personally experienced that period, she might have actually chosen to forgive him. But now she gave him a cold glance, her words equally ruthless. "No. You say you only later realized your feelings for Cassidy Thorne were just an obsession. Who knows if you'll later say the same about me? If a person can't even recognize their own heart, why should I believe your promises?" With every word Zoe spoke, Liam Spencer felt his heart grow colder, until only a weak defense remained. "Wanwen, I'm not lying to you, really. During the time you were gone, every day felt worse than death. Wanwen, I can't live without you." In the distance, Julian Kingsley, who had been caught up in conversation, noticed the situation here. He apologetically interrupted the person he was speaking to, gestured towards Zoe's direction, and said, "Sorry, I have something to attend to, so I won't keep you company." Seeing the man who had been persistently bothering Zoe, those people nodded understandingly and let him go. Julian quickened his pace towards the corner, but suddenly noticed a furtive figure. Dressed as a waitress, she walked slowly towards Zoe with her head lowered, her face obscured, only identifiable as a woman. In an instant, an ominous premonition rose in his heart. And in the corner, due to the confrontation, Zoe still had her back to the woman, completely unaware of the danger. Julian broke into a run, but due to the distance, he was still a few steps behind the person. At that moment, the woman pulled out a knife from her clothes and lunged fiercely at Zoe. "Zoe Ashton, go to hell!" The moment the voice sounded, Liam looked up and saw the knife-wielding woman. The dagger was already nearing Zoe. Instantly, his pupils constricted, his eyes wide with fury. Without thinking, he grabbed Zoe and switched places with her. The next second, the sound of a dagger piercing flesh and a man's muffled groan echoed in her ears. Blood exploded before her eyes. At that moment, Zoe's mind went blank, losing the ability to react. Liam's full weight pressed down on her, making her unsteady. She supported him as he knelt to the ground. Unexpectedly, the person in front of her had suddenly changed. The knife-wielding woman only froze for a moment before raising the knife again, intending to stab Zoe. But this time, before she could make a move, a powerful force struck her wrist. The pain in her wrist shot to her brain. She could no longer hold the dagger, and it clattered to the floor. The next second, she was kicked to the ground, and then a member of security personnel who rushed over pinned her down firmly, unable to move. After a brief panic in the banquet hall, since the assailant had been subdued, things quickly calmed down. Some called the police, others called for an ambulance. The woman's mask was violently torn off, and a burning pain spread through her body. When Zoe looked up, she met the exposed face of the person and recognized her at once. Cassidy Thorne. After a moment of stunned silence, Zoe finally understood the cause of the incident. The only connection between them was Liam. If Cassidy wanted to kill her, it could only be because of him. But Zoe didn't understand. From their last conversation, she and Liam should be a couple by now. Just because he had been pestering her recently, Cassidy wanted to kill her. She sat there blankly. Soon, someone helped Liam and settled him aside. Then, Zoe fell into a warm embrace. Chapter 19, feeling the strong heartbeat against her ear, Zoe Ashton's body temperature gradually returned. "Are you hurt? I'm sorry I was late." Julian Kingsley's voice still trembled slightly. As he spoke, he scanned her from head to toe, only breathing a sigh of relief after personally confirming she had no injuries. He then pulled her back into his embrace. By now, Zoe had also recovered, sensing his lingering fear. She gently patted his back. "I'm fine, don't worry." Though she said so, the thrilling scene from just moments ago kept replaying in her mind. It was so close. The person stabbed could have been Zoe. He still held her tightly in his arms, unwilling to let go, afraid that if he did, he would find everything before him was an illusion. "Thank goodness you're okay, I was scared to death." Amidst his fear, Julian suddenly remembered Zoe being held in Liam Spencer's arms, and a trace of annoyance flashed in his eyes. It was all his fault for being too slow, allowing Liam to shield Zoe from the knife first. This man with ulterior motives, who knew if he would later exploit Zoe's kindness to soften her heart. But as long as he was here, no one could snatch Zoe away. "Zoe Ashton, you little minx, I'm going to kill you, you little minx. I won't let you go, just you wait." Cassidy Thorne, though restrained, still refused to be quiet, cursing loudly. When she looked at Zoe, her eyes were full of resentment. But before she could continue her tirade, someone casually grabbed a tablecloth and stuffed it into her mouth. Instantly, only Cassidy's muffled, unwilling whimpers remained in the venue. With such an incident, the banquet naturally couldn't continue. "Dare to hurt Wanwan, I'll make you pay a painful price for your actions." Julian, who was comforting Zoe, heard her curses, whipped his head around to look at Cassidy, his eyes filled with rolling dark clouds. Stared at by him with eyes that regarded her as a lifeless object, she finally quieted down. As the overwhelming emotions subsided, Cassidy finally felt a wave of fear. She timidly shrank back, but she was already pinned against a corner by the wall, with no room to retreat. Soon, the police and ambulance arrived, taking Cassidy and Liam away. The other guests at the venue left directly after giving their statements. As for Cassidy's subsequent handling, Julian left it entirely to his lawyers. Coming out of the police station, Regina Davies looked displeased, pulling Zoe along and complaining. I signed a cooperation contract with them because I heard their business capabilities were good. Turns out they can't even handle their messy private lives, not only ruining our first banquet, but also nearly causing me to lose a key team member. It's just rotten luck to encounter such a contractor. I'm firing them all when I get back. After a pause, she added resentfully, even if I have to pay compensation, I'm tearing up this contract. All right, don't be angry. Getting angry easily causes wrinkles. You spent a lot of money on maintaining this face. You're already going to pay to terminate the contract. You can't waste the money spent on skincare because of them too. Zoe helplessly soothed her. Seeing her emotions calm down a bit, she continued, besides, the incident was caused by their boss, that's true, but he almost died saving me. That counts as making amends. So please don't be angry, okay? Hearing her say this, Regina finally relented. All right, for your sake, I won't pursue this matter with them for now. We'll talk about it after Liam Spencer recovers. The two talked for a while longer, then parted ways outside the police station. One went home, while the other, after Julian came out, went to the hospital together. After all, he had saved her life. No matter how many past grievances there were, it wasn't appropriate to keep dwelling on them now. Chapter 20, when Zoe Ashton and Julian Kingsley arrived at the hospital, Liam Spencer was already out of the emergency room. Zoe and the others went directly to his ward. Liam's mother, Helen Spencer, was there. Zoe walked in first and softly called out, "Auntie Helen." Julian didn't go in but sat down on a chair outside the ward. Inside the ward, Helen merely glanced up at Zoe, showing no particular emotion. She pointed to the chair beside her and said only 2 words, "Sit down." "No trouble, Auntie Helen. I just came to ask how he is now." Zoe noticed Helen's coldness and shook her head, not wanting to invite rebuff. Actually, their relationship had never been very close, but Helen was, after all, her mother's best friend. After Zoe's parents passed away, Helen had also offered her help. It wasn't much help, but what's most precious is kindness in times of need. Although Helen had concealed things regarding Liam and Cassidy Thorne, during their 5 years together, Helen had also treated her like her own daughter, so Zoe didn't hold much resentment towards Helen. She just hadn't expected that her perfunctory remark to Liam about visiting Helen would happen under such circumstances. He's temporarily out of danger. The doctor said if there are no complications, he should wake up tomorrow. Helen looked at her son's pale face, her eyes full of heartache. When she looked at Zoe, her expression was replaced by complexity. She didn't know what kind of mood to face Zoe with at this moment. Ultimately, she and Liam had wronged Zoe. It was only natural for Zoe to choose to leave. But she was, after all, Liam's mother, so she would naturally be more biased towards her own son. During the period when Zoe had just gone abroad, Liam moped at home, drunk and unconscious day after day. Then came the incident with Cassidy. Helen already disliked Cassidy, feeling she was too calculating. And look, Liam had stumbled badly because of her. Helen blamed Cassidy, blamed her son for being a disappointment, and also blamed Zoe. She felt Zoe was so heartless, not only leaving without a word, but also refusing to give Liam even a shred of hope. So Helen allowed Cassidy to stay by his side. She thought, perhaps if he got what he wished for, Liam would return to being the spirited Liam Spencer of before. Later, although Liam didn't get together with Cassidy, he gradually got back on track. But then Zoe returned to the country at this very moment. She stirred up his heart and even caused him to now lie unconscious in a hospital bed. Reason told Helen that the real culprit was Cassidy, but emotionally, she couldn't completely separate Zoe from this incident. Finally, Helen sighed and looked at her. "For the sake of Auntie having been somewhat good to you in the past, Auntie wants to ask you for a favor, okay?" Zoe froze, then quickly recovered. "Auntie Helen, please speak. Auntie begs you, can you please not see him again in the future? If something like this happens a few more times, Auntie's heart really can't take it." Helen's eyes were sincere, almost as if she was about to kneel before Zoe. Although Zoe really wanted to say that whether she and Liam met or not depended not on her, but on Liam. But looking at the haggard Helen, she didn't know how to speak. A scoff came from the doorway, followed by Julian's merciless voice. "Ma'am, isn't it simple if you want my girlfriend and your son not to meet? Just manage your son properly, and tell him to stop pestering my girlfriend." Chapter 21. As his voice fell, Julian Kingsley had already walked into the ward, assertively pulling Zoe Ashton into his embrace, his protective intent obvious. Being defended like this in front of an elder, Zoe's face turned red for a moment. She looked up at him and asked softly, "Didn't I ask you to wait outside? Why did you come in?" He looked down, and seeing her flushed cheeks, he felt a stir of affection. He couldn't help but plant a kiss on her lips. Then, before she could reach out to pinch his waist, he grabbed Zoe's wrist and cleared his throat. "I saw you hadn't come out for a while, so I came to check. I didn't expect to see someone guilt-tripping as soon as I walked in." Julian's last sentence, just short of naming names, made Helen Spencer flush red. But what she hadn't expected even more was their relationship. Zoe and this man were already dating. Once this thought emerged, Helen's contempt for her son intensified. He didn't cherish her, and after driving her away, he started missing her obsessively, pestering her relentlessly, even though Zoe already had a boyfriend. His words left her speechless, but after all, the person lying in bed was her son. In the end, she forced a smile and said, "I'll be mindful." The conversation ended, and Zoe had no intention of staying longer. She took Julian's hand and walked out. The two walked without stopping until they were out of the hospital. Julian suddenly stopped, causing Zoe to stop as well. She turned her head and looked at him curiously. "What's wrong?" "Nothing, just that my girlfriend is too charming. It's causing me a bit of trouble." He feigned a sigh, and before she could get embarrassed and angry, he continued, "Girlfriend, when are you planning to give me a promotion?" Zoe froze, then her face turned slightly red. "Depends on my mood. Whenever I'm in a good mood, I'll promote you." "Then, when will Wanwan's mood be better?" Hearing the playful teasing in her voice, Julian, forgetting that his initial intention was just to cheer Zoe up a bit, brazenly continued to ask. She shot him a playfully annoyed look, but still didn't give a precise answer. "We'll see how you behave." Liam Spencer woke up on the evening of the third day. It was a little later than the doctor had predicted. Helen Spencer had been so nervous, she almost pressed the call bell every half hour. Finally, it was only after the doctor repeatedly assured her that his vital signs were all normal and he would be fine that Helen's anxiety lessened. But the doctor was also quite understanding. After all, the stab wound was near the chest cavity. If the assailant's original target hadn't been shorter than Liam, the knife could have gone straight into his heart. And because there was no doctor at the scene of the crime and no timely treatment, when Liam was sent to the hospital for emergency rescue, he almost received a critical condition notice. But fortunately, he was lucky enough to survive the surgery. His post-operative vital signs were also very stable. Although he woke up a little late, at least his life was not in danger. However, after waking up, apart from initially looking around and asking about Zoe when he only saw Helen, and learning that she had only come to see him briefly on the first day and then left, Liam showed no further reaction. At first, Helen didn't pay much attention. It was normal to have little strength after just waking up from a serious injury. It wasn't until days passed and he still maintained that listless, half-dead appearance that Helen began to panic. "Killin, what's wrong with you? Don't scare Mom." Chapter 22. Just as Helen Spencer was about to press the call button again in panic, her hand was suddenly grabbed. She looked down and saw Liam Spencer's eyes, full of hope. "Mom, can you help me?" As soon as these words came out, Helen had a vague, ominous premonition, and his next words further confirmed her fears. "Mom, can you ask Wanwan to come see me once? You were so good to her before, she'll definitely listen to you." Hearing it was about this, Helen felt a surge of anger and refused him outright. "No, Killin, you two are in the past. Isn't it better to let the past be the past? She has her new life, and you should start yours too. Didn't you dislike her before? She's not the only woman in the world. Why do you have to make yourself like this?" She spoke earnestly, hoping Liam would listen to her advice and let go of the past. When Liam was still desperate over Cassidy Thorne, she had ways to make him let go and accept others. Helen believed it was the same now. As long as there was enough time, Liam would eventually let go of Zoe Ashton one day. But he shook his head, shedding tears in front of Helen for the first time, pleading with her, "Mom, I can't forget her. Without her, I'll die." Even though Helen told him that Zoe, apart from coming to see him once with Julian Kingsley on the first day, had shown no concern for his condition since, Liam still didn't regret taking that knife for her that day. However painful the dagger plunging into his chest was, he was equally glad. Fortunately, the one who took that blow was him, not Zoe. And Liam wanted to believe, no matter how much she didn't want to see him before this, given Zoe's personality, she would never be so heartless as to only visit him once and not even confirm he was out of danger and awake. And if she did so, there could only be one reason. Helen had told her not to come see him anymore. Helen thought his feelings for Zoe were the same as his feelings for Cassidy, that as long as they didn't see each other, he would eventually let go. But Liam himself knew that wasn't true. People say that in moments of life and death, one sees one's feelings most clearly. And in that moment, Liam was undeniably certain. He loved Zoe, fearless of life or death. This was a feeling he had never experienced when he was with Cassidy. He wouldn't forget Zoe, nor could he let her go. Her name was already etched into his bones, unforgettable in this lifetime. He only knew that without Zoe, he would die. But looking at Liam like this, Helen only felt he was a lost cause. Liam Spencer, wake up, she already has a boyfriend, so what if you meet? She and her boyfriend are very much in love. She won't come back for you. Helen's words failed to awaken Liam's reason. He still looked at Helen with pleading eyes. Mom, just this once, let me see her once, just once is enough. She hardened her heart, refusing to look or listen to his pleas, silently deadlocked with him. And he just kept repeating that one sentence. They were both gambling on who would give in first. And in the end, the one who got his wish was Liam. Helen didn't know Zoe's address, so she could only go to her workplace to wait for her. Chapter 23, Helen Spencer tried to find her several times but couldn't. It wasn't until the third day, as Zoe Ashton passed the front desk, that the receptionist finally found a chance to inform her that a Mrs. Ho had been looking for her these past few days. A Mrs. Ho. Zoe quickly thought of Helen, but hearing she had been looking for her for 3 consecutive days made her a little puzzled. She hadn't gone to see Liam Spencer, so why was Helen looking for her? The answer soon presented itself. Looking at Helen, whose face was etched with guilt, Zoe didn't bother with pleasantries and asked directly, Auntie Helen, is there something you need from me? Can you go see Killen? He's not doing well. Seeing Zoe ask directly without any small talk, Helen knew she had probably guessed she was here about Liam, so she didn't hide it. But after saying that, she quickly added, Tingwin, I know I spoke a bit harshly to you last time. Auntie apologizes. Please don't hold it against Auntie. Just once, just this once, and I'll never bother you again. Helen initially thought that by apologizing, Zoe wouldn't dwell on the previous incident and would naturally agree to see Liam. Unexpectedly, Zoe directly shook her head. Auntie Helen, you were the one who requested I not see him. I agreed back then, and I will honor that. Besides, even without that agreement, I don't have much time recently. Helen's expression stiffened slightly. Hearing her last sentence, she subconsciously replied, Is something wrong? Zoe smiled faintly, a look of happiness appearing on her face, the smile in her eyes deepening. Yaojin proposed to me. We're busy with the engagement arrangements recently. This answer was like a blow to the head. Helen hadn't expected their progress to be so fast. She naturally didn't know that the wedding Liam hadn't even thought of giving Zoe after 5 years of dating was something Julian couldn't wait to give her. He had pursued Zoe for 2 years, dated her for 2 years, and only proposed in the 3rd year because when they first got together, she had said she had once given up her dream for someone and didn't want to give up her dream for anyone else again. He never looked down on her family background. The Kingsleys, as one of the most prominent families, didn't need their children's marriages to solidify their business. For Julian's choice of wife, they valued character more than family background. They had never objected to Zoe wanting to pursue her career first. When she could stand shoulder to shoulder with him through her own abilities, they wished for her to be even stronger than anyone else. Zoe had spent 5 years successfully establishing herself in the jewelry design industry, making a name for herself. Now, when people talked about her, they mentioned her career and abilities, not the title, young Master Kingsley's girlfriend. She finally had plans to take things further. And all he needed to do was, at this moment, present everything he wanted to give her to Zoe. 2 knocks, thump thump, sounded before the reception room door was pushed open, and Julian's voice appeared at the doorway. He held up an insulated lunchbox and smiled gently at her. "Fiancé, how much longer do you need? I've come to bring you lunch." "Soon." Zoe smiled back at him, beckoning him to sit beside her, then turned back to Helen. "Auntie Helen, is there anything else?" Chapter 24. Helen Spencer looked like she wanted to say something but hesitated. In the end, she just shook her head. "You two eat first. Today, just pretend I was never here." With that, without waiting for Zoe Ashton or Julian Kingsley to react, she stood up and walked towards the door. Only after Helen's figure completely disappeared did Julian casually ask, "What did she come for?" Zoe took the lunchbox he handed her. Seeing him trying hard to feign indifference, she couldn't help but chuckle. She didn't hide anything and instead embellished the story a bit as she told him everything. It wasn't until she saw the jealousy on his face growing stronger that she finally stopped teasing him and soothed. "All right, I didn't agree to see him. What's there to be jealous about?" Who knew that Julian, upon hearing this, suddenly became interested. "Why not see him? Not only should you go, but I should go too coincidentally. Isn't our engagement party coming up soon? Wanwen, let's go deliver him an invitation together." Zoe was still wondering when he had become so generous with his previous sentence. It wasn't until she heard his next sentence that she finally understood what he was planning. But who was she to deny him? If he wanted to go, then they would go. At 5 o'clock that afternoon, Zoe and Julian pushed open the door to Liam Spencer's hospital room. As they opened the door, Zoe's eyes met Liam's, who was looking up. Instantly, she saw surprise in his eyes. When Helen had returned, she hadn't told him that Zoe was getting engaged to Julian, only that she hadn't seen Zoe that day. Liam had thought he wouldn't see her today either, but unexpectedly, the surprise had arrived so suddenly. Before he could even rejoice, unbeknownst to him, Helen's expression had already changed. More than their sudden arrival, Helen wished they hadn't appeared, just as they had told her earlier that day. After all, for someone who said in the afternoon they wouldn't come, to suddenly arrive, and with Julian Kingsley at that, there was only one last possibility. They weren't here to see Liam. Sure enough, after a few brief pleasantries, they got straight to the point. "We came to see you today, actually. There's one more thing." Helen didn't even have time to stop him before Julian had already taken out an invitation and handed it to Liam. "5 days from now is Wanwen's and my engagement banquet. This is the invitation. You're welcome to attend." He smiled perfectly, but Liam's smile cracked piece by piece. Soon, his smile could no longer be maintained. "You two are getting engaged." This time, the person who answered was Zoe. "Yes. Although we had some unpleasantness before, after my parents passed away, it was thanks to Auntie Helen's help. Even though we couldn't be husband and wife, in my heart, you will always be my family. If you can come, I would still be very happy." The phrase, "you will always be my family," struck Liam's heart like a heavy hammer. Just, family? He stared blankly as Zoe's mouth kept opening and closing, but a sudden ringing filled his ears. Intense pain spread from his chest throughout his body, as if thousands of steel needles were piercing every inch of his skin. The pain engulfed him in endless darkness. His voice grew fainter and fainter until it disappeared completely. Finally, even his consciousness completely vanished. Dr. Helen's alarmed voice echoed through the ward. The next moment, Zoe and Julian, along with the invitation they had brought, were all asked to leave the ward. Chapter 25. Walking out of the hospital, Zoe Ashton still looked back with some concern towards Liam Spencer's ward. "He's not going to be seriously ill, is he? Was what we did a bit too much?" After all, he was the one who saved her life. If their actions caused him serious harm, she would inevitably feel a little guilty. Although Zoe hadn't expected Liam's psychological resilience to be so poor. But if Liam really suffered something because of their words, she would still feel somewhat remorseful. Julian Kingsley patted her head soothingly, his face also a bit serious. "Don't worry, he won't. I've already called the best doctor over." Liam Spencer was indeed fated to live. That fainting spell not only caused him no harm, but also helped release the pent-up frustration in his heart, which could be considered a blessing in disguise. On the 3rd day after he woke up, Cassidy Thorne's sentence also came down. 3 years in prison, but because she was found to be pregnant, it was commuted to probation. After being released from the detention center, Cassidy moved into the Spencer family home. Cassidy thought the Spencer family had finally accepted her, but she didn't expect that she had merely moved from one cage to another. She used the child to pressure Liam into a hasty marriage registration. There were no blessings, no wedding, only him taking the marriage certificate on the day of registration, then hurriedly leaving, abandoning her alone at the Civil Affairs Bureau. Time quickly passed to the day of Zoe and Julian's engagement party. The engagement party was entirely organized by the Kingsley family, and the venue chosen was the most luxurious hotel in New York. Although it was just an engagement, the Kingsley family took it very seriously. At the banquet, all the guests were in suits and gowns, glasses clinking amidst lively chatter and toasts. The bride-to-be's guests were only some colleagues from DW Company and her best friend. Most of the people were invited by the Kingsley family. Watching the Kingsley family and guests congratulating each other, Zoe felt both happy and a little overwhelmed. Why did Uncle Kingsley invite so many people? Our wedding won't be like this too, will it? Julian's eyes were full of happy smiles. While explaining to Zoe, he didn't forget to tease her. Of course, there are many people because they value you. Wealthy families, that's how it is. The more they value you, the more people they invite to make it lively. It seems my fiancé is really looking forward to our wedding. She's already thinking about it. I must tell father to put the wedding on the agenda quickly. Julian's first sentence surprised Zoe a little. She hadn't expected wealthy families to also emphasize a lively atmosphere with many people. His next sentence made her blush again. "You're teasing me again. If you keep this up, I'll ignore you." Seeing her about to leave, Julian quickly pleaded for forgiveness. "I was wrong. I was really wrong, Wanwen. You can't leave. What about the engagement party if you leave? We can't have it without the leading lady." Amidst their playful banter, they never noticed that in a corner of the banquet hall sat a man with a somewhat pale face, yet still trying hard to appear energetic. This person was none other than Liam Spencer, who, disregarding Helen's objections, had insisted on attending the engagement party right after being discharged from the hospital. He had later retrieved the engagement party invitation. Even if he couldn't marry Zoe, he wanted to witness her happiness with his own eyes. Today, he had specially worn his most expensive and magnificent suit. Anyone who didn't know better might have mistaken him for the protagonist of this engagement party. "Wanwen," he thought, "today I attend your engagement party in my finest, and I'll pretend I've already married you. In this life, we were fated to meet but not to be together. I hope in the next, we can be husband and wife."